If you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description.
You are listening to Mindshock. This is your host, Bruce McGuire.
And Massive Powers.
And this is Shadow People, Part 6, Encounters 4. We are going to go deep into even more creepy, spooky, and just downright terrifying accounts and encounters that will leave Maxwell unable to sleep for days. As always, if you like the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like our Facebook page. You can also catch us on Twitter, Reddit, Patreon. And any questions, comments, thoughts, theories, just drop them in the comments section, and feel free to share this podcast across social media platforms. So, are you still reeling from our last Shadow People podcast?
Well, the less time I have thinking about it, the less scared I get, so.
So you got your night light on right now? You got your teddy bear close by? All right, so let's get into some encounters. So this individual has had 3 sleep paralysis events in their life. This is their account. I saw a cat-sized shadow creature at the base of my bed, and it slowly crawled up onto my sheets and finally up to my chest. I felt uncomfortable. Another time, I saw a shadow man walking around my room, disappearing behind my open door. This was the scariest one I've had so far. This one was the best. I saw a couple of surreal-looking penguins walking around my bedroom. It was amusing and funny. So if this person's not on drugs, what are these penguins? Are these astral traveling penguins? Do penguins astral travel, Maxwell?
I have no idea. But I'd rather see a penguin than a man.
Surreal looking penguins. What does surreal mean? I mean they're like ultra bright, ultra vibrant, or just they don't seem. This person didn't describe them as shadow creatures. Although that cat-sized shadow creature was kind of creepy. Have you ever owned a cat, Maxwell?
No, but I like cats and
Yeah,
dogs.
cats climb onto you. I mean, depending on what kind of cat you have, cats can climb onto you quite often, and you can feel obviously, or a cat or a dog or a pet. If they climb onto your chest, you can clearly feel the weight. So, what do you think of this person's account? Was this a shadow creature cat, or were they in some kind of a daze or haze or hallucinogenic experience, and it really wasn't there? Or did some neighbor's cat come in and really sit on their chest?
I don't know. Disowned cat. Or
What?
a lost cat.
I mean, that is kind of strange, though, for it to just interact with a human like that. Usually, if the cat, I mean, I don't know. And then, of course, the Shadow Man that they said was the scariest experience. All the Shadow Man did was walk around the room and then disappear behind the door. So it didn't seem like this shadow creature stared at them or had this ominous, terrifying presence. I mean, this almost seems like an astral traveler. If you haven't checked out our other Shadow People podcasts, the first 5 in the series, check those out. We go over scientific analysis of edge of the eye phenomena, different explanations from ghosts to interdimensional travelers to astral projection, and quite a few other theories. So if you haven't checked those out, check them out. We will be referring to some of their content on this episode and episodes moving forward. So did you find this person credible with the penguins too? I mean, these are 3 experiences that they've had. The cat, shadow man, and random penguins.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I mean, I believe most people, so I don't know. I mean, he doesn't say he was on drugs, and
Well, he doesn't say he wasn't, right?
yeah, so.
All right, so let's move on. So this is someone who also has a variety of experiences. In our previous podcast, we went over benevolent shadow people to an extent. And it seems like some people have experience with both benevolent and malevolent shadow creatures. So this is this individual's account. I have a few different sleep paralysis demons and one sort of sleep paralysis guardian angel. The demon ones are the usual shadow figure standing over me or my bedroom door. The worst one was while I was lying on my side with my back to the door, and it felt like someone got into bed behind me, under the covers, and put their arm around my waist. Then it felt like they were cuddling into me, and I could feel breath on my neck. It felt like they cuddled me for about half an hour. All this time, I'm trying not to show that I'm panicking because it feels like I'm getting cuddled by a skeleton with claws. It was only about the second, maybe third time I've had sleep paralysis, so I nearly had a heart attack when this thing feels like it's moving in closer to kiss me behind the ear. Worst of all, it whispered, "Not yet. You're not ready yet. I'll come back when you are." To me, it sounded disappointed and excited. It felt like it was silently telling me that it was coming back when I was about to die. Scared the expletive out of me. That's one of the creepiest shadow encounters I think we've ever gone over in this podcast series. What do you think, Maxwell?
Yeah, that's messed up. And no one ever talked to them, so this is the first one that talked. So that's kind of fucked up.
Well, actually, you keep bringing this up, but we've gone over quite a few encounters where they did talk a little bit, couple words here and there. You keep forgetting with your
Yeah.
slightly imperfect memory.
But this one's talking about his death, like you're not ready and shit. Man, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I mean, it was just not yet. You're not ready yet. I'll come back when you are. I mean, it's not like they were writing. It wasn't that much. But no, if this is sleep paralysis, so you can't move, and there's a skeleton shadow creature hugging you from behind and breathing on your neck. Ooh, that's
Yeah, it's
bad,
messed up.
man. That's bad. That's bad.
Yeah, it's creepy.
All right, so now they go on to talk about their sleep paralysis guardian angel. My sleep paralysis guardian angel was a weird experience. I'd been getting sleep paralysis on and off for about 18 months by this point, so I could usually tell straight away when it was happening. At first, I thought it was the usual demon things beside my bed, but when I looked properly, I realized I could clearly see a man kneeling next to my bed, smiling at me. It wasn't a creepy smile, more like a parent coming in to check on their kid. He looked like he was dressed in a 50s style suit and hat. He didn't say anything, although I got the sense he was letting me know everything was all right and he'd look after me. So, how much stock do you put in the intuition of people sensing these entities are not there to do them harm, but to protect them? Do you think that's a genuine feeling, or are these entities able to project this as sort of some kind of mind control brainwashing, where there really are the demons leeching energy, but they mask it by pretending they're benevolent entities? Is that too mind shocking?
I never thought of the deceptive, benevolent thing. That's kind of messed up.
Yeah, that's super creepy.
So it's like, that's messed up. Because if I encountered like a shadow person and they talked all benevolent and like kind,
Well,
now I would think differently, man. Like, man, trying to like pull one over on me, man.
Well, actually, so if we're going to be really, really logical and not fall for any kind of false dichotomies or black and white fallacies at all, we would have to say there's good shadow people, bad shadow people. Then there's bad shadow people pretending to be good. So then there might also be good shadow people pretending to be bad just for kicks, right? and then the
Yeah,
neutral, and then
I
the
guess.
neutral, and then the neutral ones who are just kind of roaming and they don't want to help you or hurt you. They're just kind of minding their own business.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So yeah, this is pretty creepy. But do you think the intuition is true? So I mean, because in some of these situations, if there really are an evil shadow entity and they're pretending to be good, but then your intuition tells you that they're bad, or they're being an honest shadow entity and they're telling you that, or whatever, they seem a comforting, benevolent presence, and it is true, your intuition would tell you that. Like, do you, how much stock do you put in? Do you think this individual's perceptions were accurate with both
Um,
the shadow entity demonic presence and then also the angelic presence?
yeah, think it was accurate.
All right, so you know what else jumped out at me here, which I thought was really, really creepy? At first, I thought it was the usual demon things beside my bed. So this smiling man. So like,
Usual.
yeah, yeah. So this individual apparently is haunted by these demon things. Now they're the usual demon things beside my bed. But upon further inspection, it was actually a kneeling man who might have been a guardian angel.
That's funny.
Yeah, aren't you glad you aren't these people that experience this all the time? Unless they're all lying. But all right, so let's move on. This one includes many horrible things. Before I learned to cope with it, I've seen quite a few awful things. Horror films don't really do anything for me anymore because I've already seen the most terrifying things I already could. Here's a few things I remember off the top of my head. A little girl in the corner of my room staring at me. Then, without notice, she shrieks and runs up and starts choking me. A large dark figure, kind of a human silhouette, emerging from the foot of my bed and staring down at me. See, these accounts are kind of weird. Emerging from the foot of the bed, like it just manifests at the foot of the bed. It doesn't come from anywhere. What do you make of that?
Um, well, it's okay, 'cause I thought, I I always figured shadow people came from shadows, so it doesn't have to come from the door or anything.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, we never really discussed this actually. I mean, we're 6 episodes in. Where exactly do they manifest from? Because we did talk rips in the space time continuum, interdimensional travel, but we never really discussed poof. They appear. It's
I always thought. I mean, I probably never said it, but I always thought they manifested from shadows, coming out of shadows. So the more shadows there are in a room, the more shadow people can manifest.
Yeah, so it would usually be in dark corners or in closets, or they just wander from another room where there were more shadows. But this person is basically saying it just emerged from the foot of the bed. I mean, wouldn't there be more shadows in the corners? Why would there be shadows right at the foot if the bed, usually the foot of the bed is pointing closer to the middle of the room, right?
Yeah, I mean, if she was laying down, maybe there was shadows that came
I guess
from.
maybe under the bed, and then it moved up over from the foot of the bed.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, another one. Something banging and scraping on my bedroom door. I keep it locked at night because I have had ones where it opens by itself. Edit. No, the door isn't open when I wake up. It opens in the dream. That's weird. Maybe it was just a draft. My bedroom door opening by itself, followed by dark figures coming into my room. See, that's pretty creepy. I don't know. Did we ever have an account where the door is closed, it suddenly opens, and a whole bunch of dark figures just march in line? Like, how bizarre is that? That's just weird. That's freaky stuff.
Wait, he said that's what happened.
Yes.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So
Wait, how many shadow people came out?
it just said followed by dark figures, plural. Doesn't say how many. Remember that one account where there were several dozen just in the room? That was weird. That was a weird one from our previous episodes. But yeah, and then also the earliest one I can remember is with my mother in the room. She's sitting on my bed and her face morphs into a demon like thing. Wow, that might be even creepier than all these other ones.
Yeah,
That's just bizarre. And many others. The worst thing is when you try to fight or call for help, your voice doesn't work and your body will not respond. You just feel helpless. I need to stop trying to remember these things. I'm getting chills. So this individual seems to be plagued with supernatural experiences, hauntings, demonic entities because they seem to be just all over the place. And also, that description kind of goes with not just horror movies, but a lot of accounts of the paranormal where, yeah, your voice doesn't work, your body's paralyzed, and you just can't do anything. Do you think that comes directly from your own fear, where you get deer in the headlight syndrome? Or do you think it's these entities paralyzing you so there's nothing you can do, so you're even more scared, so they have even more negative energy to feed off of to sustain themselves, if that's what they are?
possible. I mean, it could also be mental illness and hallucinations. Kind of yeah, that kind of mental illness.
Okay, this one is really bizarre. My first and only time I seen someone transform was from dream to reality. I was dreaming. It was this pleasant dream of a person you like very much, a crush. Then I realized I was dreaming, so I turned it into a lucid dream. And all of a sudden, I opened my eyes, and the face aged like in Indiana Jones movie where he drinks from the wrong grail. It also turned dark, and from lush, vivid environment around her, it turned black. Dark, it was my room in darkness, and above me, this aged old face of a woman, similar to the picture showed. I guess they're talking about old hag syndrome here. And the top of it, I couldn't move. I felt pressure on my chest, and it was aging before me. So, normally, old hag syndrome would have to do a dedicated podcast on that because that's possibly not a shadow entity. Some people describe seeing the face clearly, it's like a witch. But this person's account is that it transformed from some. It's almost like The Shining, right? Where the woman turns into the old lady.
Yeah, I haven't seen The Shining in full. I've only seen parts of it.
Wow, that is just unacceptable, Maxwell. Unacceptable.
Yeah,
For
supposedly
someone who
Shining,
loves
Shining is like one of those classic
for
horror
someone
films.
who loves movies and talks about movies as much as you do, I'm very shocked you have not seen The Shining.
I'm not into horror as much though. Like, yeah, I don't know.
It's more of a psychological thriller, I would say, but yeah.
Yeah, I've seen so many parts of it. I feel like I've seen it, and I've also seen a lot of reviews on it, like analysis of the movie. They always refer to it whenever there's a new movie coming out, like horror films. They always refer to it.
Yeah, I mean it's a staple of all cinema, not just genre. I mean it's a big one. Yeah, I've seen most of Kubrick's films. I'm assuming you haven't. I mean, he does a lot of different things. Okay, around 3 years ago, I was sitting with my dog on my screened-in porch like I did every night. It was around 11 to 12 p.m. I lived out in the middle of the woods on the outskirts of town. Oh, that's not sounding good. As I was sitting there at my table, I heard this blood curdling scream, and not just an ordinary scared type scream. It literally sounded like something was being eaten alive, but evil. It sounded like it was kind of far off, maybe a football field or two away. It wasn't even 10 seconds later, my dog got low and started growling, facing towards the front yard with his hair standing up. So, of course, it made me stand up so I could see what he was growling at. I looked out to the yard. Mind you, I got a porch light on, so I have plenty of lighting from 8 to 10 feet in front of the porch. And all I see is a shadow on the ground, but it's kind of throwing me off a little because I'm a small framed girl and this shadow was bigger than me. It was as if a man was standing there. Not even 4 seconds after I looked at the shadow, the terrifying scream came again. Only this time the sound came from just a few feet in front of me. And then the shadow started moving towards the porch steps. Me and my dog hauled inside as fast as we could and locked the door. I never been so scared and drained of blood in my life. I still can't wrap my head around what I witnessed. It brings tears to my eyes every time I think of it. That's kind of weird. I'm assuming it was 11 p.m. to midnight because she put 11 to 12 p.m. So every night. Yeah, so it's 11 p.m. to midnight. So that's kind of weird. So crazy blood curdling screams and then a shadow entity moving towards the porch while she's sitting on it with her dog. What do you think, Maxwell? What do you make of that one? That's kind of weird.
Yeah. Mm.
All right, here's another one. When I was about 9 years old, I experienced the most daunting things of my life. My family and I lived in a very old home built in 1935. The home just looked like trouble. It was 2 stories high and looked like an old church in a way. It had stained glass windows halfway up the stairway. Anyway, my older cousin was staying with us for a while until she found herself a house for both her and her newborn baby girl. Dad offered to let her use me and my sister's room and that me and my sister would top and tail on the single bed in his room next to his bed. One night, while we were top and tailing, I woke up during the night. I was half asleep when I turned over and saw a black silhouette standing beside my dad while he was sleeping. Because I was half asleep, I immediately thought it was my sister and told her to get in bed. I then realized my sister was asleep in bed already. My heart started racing as my vision of this thing became clearer and clearer. It was a silhouette of a lady. She was completely in black with long, curly black hair. She looked drenched in water, but she wasn't dripping at all. That's a new one. A shadow entity, dark silhouette that looks wet, but not dripping. She just stood there next to my dad. My heart was pounding so hard I turned over and forced myself to sleep. I'm not sure that would be my first response. The next day, no one believed. All my siblings thought I was nuts. Until 8 years later, when my dad rushed into my room in our new home and asked me what I saw in the old house. I repeated exactly what I saw, and my dad said, "The child of the family who live in that house now has just been attacked." The kid described it as a black lady. The parents woke during the night and heard him screaming in his room. They tried to open the door, but it would not open. The kid began swearing at the entity, telling her to leave him alone. The family moved out the next morning and immediately took the child to a priest. It took 8 years for my family to believe me. That's kind of weird. I mean, this almost sounds like a ghost haunting, but what doesn't make any sense that it's just standing around hanging out, but then with all these years later, the kid's just screaming at the entity and the door locks itself. I mean, what doesn't make any sense. What did she do? She went back to sleep. So, well, that's kind of interesting because if these are demonic ghost type entities that feed off your fear, if you just ignore them, they have nothing to feed off of, so they can't do anything, right?
Yeah.
So maybe going back to sleep is the best option.
Yeah, I think you're better off. Just sleep, ignore it, and
Unless
then they
you get
can't.
attacked and killed and it's a different type of shadow entity. You got to kind of know what you're dealing with, I guess. I don't know. What do you make of that story? You find it credible?
Um, I remember like a little bit of it. The church-looking house and the glass-stained windows is kind of, I don't know, kind of fits.
Well, what do you think about this other child being attacked 8 years later? So this entity only shows up every 8 years, or does it always show up and most people just don't notice or don't report it?
Wow, same place, huh?
So that's the whole point. That's the whole point of the story.
Yeah, it's well, yeah, it's kind of crazy. Having experienced by a few people in the same place, um, it
I mean, it's
it gives
classic.
it gives it more credibility.
Well, it's the classic signs of a haunting. What's weird is it was kind of a black shadow creature that appeared to be wet but not dripping. Is that some kind of Yeah, that's new.
Well, they had the shadow people had a pool in their uh in their place.
Yeah, but they weren't dripping, which I mean that's kind of creepy too. Because does that mean the water texture, if it's interdimensional or whatnot, it can't drip? If they're wet from another dimension, I don't know.
they're they're coming from a swimming pool, and then they just came out and visited our universe.
All right, here's another one. I have had many experiences with shadow people. I moved into a newly built house that they built, and within weeks of living there, I used to see dark human shadows walking around my house. My office was opposite my bedroom, and every time I heard my printer go off, making the noise like it's cleaning, I would look down the hall and see a dark shadow step from the office into my bedroom. I used to see many shadows walk from one side of my living room wall and walk straight through the kitchen wall nearly every night. Our dog was fast asleep on my lap, then all of a sudden sits bolt upright and watches something go from one end of the room to another. I used to watch her head move like something walking across the room. Wow, that's really creepy. You watch your dog move its head as if it's tracking something with its eyes, but there's nothing there. That's weird.
Yeah.
When our grown kids used to come and stay, they often used to say that they saw something move around the house. I did sage the house many times, and that calmed it a little. We have now sold and moved many years later, but unfortunately, my husband just mentioned to me last night that he has seen two white human shaped shadows in our living room last night. Uh-oh. We got these white shadow entities again. We've mentioned that there was a couple of encounters that we talked about in the previous podcast where they were pure white, which is pretty weird. He saw them in the reflection of the mirror. that is behind the TV. He watched them for a while, then they disappeared. I know that we have been having some family troubles and some difficult times lately, and I am beginning to wonder if they appear in times of stress to comfort, as I had suffered with anxiety when living in the new building and had them there too. Or I can offer a darker theory that when in times of stress, your or energy forces are weakened so they can kind of exploit you more. Similar with how we discussed drug addicts or heroin addicts being susceptible to paranormal activity or, or demonic visitations because they're weakened in whatever way their life force is weakened. Yeah, so this, what do you make of this account? It's pretty weird. So it's probably not ghosts because they built a new house unless they built it on some kind of burial ground. I mean, it seems like I don't know. What do you make of this?
The white shadow people. I don't know. I mean, it's
Now, forget. Okay, the White Shadow people was in their new house. In their old house, it was the woman. Her husband saw the White Shadow people. She saw the Black Shadow people very often. She said she saw them all the time walking around the house.
was she scared or no?
She didn't really say. I mean, you heard what I said. That's all the information that's given.
That's Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make.
The creepiest thing about this one to me is that when the dog was asleep on her lap, and then it would often just sit bolt right up, and then it would track things that couldn't be seen across the room with its head. It's just that's really strange to me. And then also the possible electromagnetic interference with the printer, because the printer is cleaning the printing heads or whatever noise it makes, and that's when she saw the shadow people go darting across the hall or into the office. It's very very bizarre, but they didn't seem to really attack her in any way. It's more like they were just walking around all the time. You don't know what to make of it, Maxwell? Good thing you're doing a Shadow People podcast series.
Yeah, well, I like the dog that came up to the lap and just walked around. That was kind of cool.
No, that never happened.
Oh,
The
what'd
dog
you?
was asleep on her lap, and then it
Oh,
would bolt awake and track things that weren't there with its head. I said that like 3 times back then.
wait. What do you mean by track things with its head? Like just look around, like the
Yeah,
shadow people,
you
the
know how a
shadow,
dog. Okay,
the
you know how
shadow dog. Just
if you walk in front of a dog, the dog will follow you with its head, right? Because it's watching you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It tracks you. So that's the same thing it was doing. It was tracking things that weren't there.
So non-existent things that she can see the shape of a dog's head tracking things that's not moving around.
Yeah.
That's weird. Um, I'd rather see that though than a person. That's kind of cool. I like dogs.
Okay, here's another one. I've had one shadow person, and I've seen him 4 times. In my house, I was walking to the bathroom and it was pretty late at night. I look out of the corner of my eye and I see a middle aged man standing there. Even though I saw him for a second, I still remember what he looks like. He had a black t shirt on, long black hair, and was looking down. After I realized I actually saw something, I looked back behind the wall and it was gone. The second time I was walking upstairs to go to bed and he was sitting at the dining room table with his hands in front of him. When I blinked my eyes 2 times, he was gone. Then the third time, I was brushing my teeth until I looked to the side and saw him standing on the stairs staring at me. He didn't have red eyes like I've heard others say, just white skin and the rest black. The last time I saw him was when I was reading a book, then I look up and see him in my frickin' doorway. I turned on my light and he was gone. I don't know whether it's a shadow person or a weird ghost, but whatever, it has a non threatening sensation. Yes, I feel creeped out, but not like he will attack me or even say something to me, to be honest. If you've experienced this, please say, that way I don't feel like I'm going crazy. So this is more of a neutral entity. Non-threatening vibe, but not necessarily a comforting, benevolent vibe. So this is one of those neutral shadow people. What do you think?
Well, I'd like to encounter a neutral rather than an evil intended shadow person.
All right, here's one from kids. Hello, my name is Jacob. I just had an experience. I'm 11 and my little brother is 6. It was 12:30 a.m. and my brother went hysterical and started saying he saw something and started crying. Then he started crying and I was so scared. He told me it was standing by his bed and it was tall and black. Then I showed him a picture of a shadow person and he said it looked just like that. I am still afraid. Oh man, do you think this is
That's messed up.
now? Do you think that's just the suggestibility of a child, where you show him if he had showed him a picture of something else, would he have said it just looks like that? It looks just like that. Like
Yeah, at that age, they tend to refer to things as similar rather than
no, no, some
things are
kids.
different.
Yeah, but some kids are the opposite end of the spectrum. They'll always say it didn't look like that, even if it did. So it seems like we need to really have a good profile of the specific kid. And then some kids are just plain honest, where they'll be like, yes, it did, no, it didn't.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that tells us too much. Here's another one that's kind of interesting. I wish shadow people would stop running at my car. I've had several instances now where one's darted past my rear view or side mirror while I was driving, making me think I'm about to hit someone. It only happened in parking lots and slow speed side streets, and not too often, thank goodness, but it's always slam on the brakes, startling when it happens. I can't not hit the brakes. What if that one time I don't, it's not a shadow? Now, that does not sound like fun to be that person. I mean, as I stated in episode one, I've seen dark figures that could have been shadow, whatever. I mean, I always assumed they were deer. Like when I'm driving during the daytime or even at night, sometimes I see quick shadows out of the corner of my eyes. They never look humanoid, they look more like deer shaped ish. Yeah, pretty much deer is my assumption. Obviously, sometimes I see actual deer, but sometimes I just see quick shadows of deer. Of what I think are deer. I look and I don't see them. I've never had them run at my car though. You've never had any experience like that, have you?
No, just a couple live birds.
Yeah. What about shadow birds? You ever encounter any shadow bird creatures?
Nah.
Hmm. Okay, here's another one. The same thing happened to me as well, maybe 1 or 2 years ago in our house. I woke up in the middle of the night and saw a shadow of a person who stood there in the middle of the room. I thought it was my sister because we sleep in the same room and her bed was beside mine. It kept walking towards me, but when I looked at my left, I saw my sister sleeping and discovered that the shadow person walking towards me wasn't her. I couldn't move or speak for some reason and just stayed in bed staring at the shadow person walking towards me. My heart was palpitating so fast, and when it was going to reach beside my bed, it just disappeared. As soon as it did, I went inside the covers and woke my sister up. Worst experience ever. Huh. It's pretty interesting. What do you make of that one?
Uh, completely missed it. Sorry, dude.
That was a short one, too.
Say it real quick.
This person sleeps in the same room with the sister. Then there was a figure walking towards her. She thought it was her sister, but then she looked in her sister's bed and her sister was sleeping there. Then the figure just moved straight towards her, and then right before it got to her bed, it just disappeared.
That's kind of creepy as hell.
Yeah,
It didn't say if it went into her body.
it just no,
It just
it just
disappeared.
said
It just disappeared.
disappeared right as it was gonna reach the edge of the bed. So it did not reach her.
Maybe the shadow person didn't want to see the possessiveness, so it made itself disappear before the possession.
All right, here's another weird one. You gonna pay attention because this one's a little longer.
Well, maybe after a couple sentences.
Ever since I was a kid, I remember seeing this figure of a man standing in the doorway of my grandparents' old house. This figure was about 7 feet tall, no feet,
7 feet tall, no feet.
and hovered 6 inches above the floor,
Hovered over 6 inches over the floor,
and was almost as wide as the door frame.
as wide as a door frame.
He was all black, hooded, and had red eyes.
Black hooded and red eyes. Wait, that's the first hooded one.
Yeah, I mean, hooded ones are actually spotted a lot, but yeah, I'm not sure we went over specifically ones. Yeah, this one is hooded with red eyes. Not only I saw this thing, but my cousin's brothers and my sister saw him too. To this day, my sister still has nightmares about him. She has dreams like her daughter's head being violently smashed against the wall so she wakes up, actually like sleepwalking, screaming, "No, stop, get away from her," as she's
Damn,
standing
that's
on the
messed
bed.
up. Wait, she's actually sleepwalking today.
That's what he's saying. Yes,
Damn, that's crazy.
as she's standing on the bed over her daughter. Her daughter is only 2 years old, and that dream happened a week ago. So this is years and years later because this is when they were kids. Now she's an adult with a 2-year-old daughter. She also has a bunch of other nightmares, and she walks and calls people in her sleep too. Kind of creepy. One night, she actually slept walked out of beds, downstairs, outside, into the car, and drove away. About 40 minutes later, she came home, went back to bed, and has absolutely no recollection of that. Her boyfriend at the time woke up when she woke up and stayed awake till she returned. No idea why he didn't go after her. But yeah, she's choked her boyfriend in her sleep while she was dreaming, thinking she's actually saving him. In parentheses, she's probably possessed. Ha ha. Close parentheses.
Wait, who's saying she's probably possessed?
The
No,
person
but
is recalling this account.
yeah, but he said she's probably possessed, referring to someone else. So
Referring
who's
to his sister, we were just talking
okay.
about the sister for like 5 minutes straight. Who else could be referring to?
I lost track after I didn't stop you on the last few sentences.
The sister who sleepwalks and says no, stop, get away from her as she's sleepwalking by her daughter's bed.
Yeah, I remember that part.
Yeah, we're talking, and then she drove away for 40 minutes while sleepwalking. This is all the same. He's talking about his sister. This is all his sister
Damn, she drove away.
for 40
It's
minutes.
crazy.
Yeah, then came back, no recollection. I still
Wait, so she drove away possessed supposedly, and then
Or
I
just
just
sleep. I mean,
completely forgot.
she might have not been possessed. It might have just been sleepwalking, sleep driving. I wonder how many people sleep drive at night, and how many of those account for accidents. I still see things move, hear odd sounds, dogs barking at nothing, etc. I currently live with my fiance and her parents temporarily, saving up for a house and the wedding next year. But my fiance's sister actually had a few nightmares, real events about this same being. She said that she was sleeping on the couch in the living room one night and she woke up to a sound, saw the dog staring at something. So she looked, and when she looked to the right of her, about 3 feet away, was this figure. She said she tried to scream, but nothing came out. It was just staring at her, and she stared back and couldn't take her eyes off it. I described it to her, and she immediately got the chills and said that is exactly what she saw. So we're not dealing with small kids anymore now. We're dealing with adults that all describe the same entity: 7 feet tall, no feet, hovering 6 inches above the floor, and as wide as a door frame, hooded with red eyes. How could all these people know the same entity? Is this a demon that's simply following this person and his family? Is he haunting the entire family, or just this particular individual and wherever this individual lives? But then also the sister. No thoughts, Maxwell?
Um, what's the question?
I just said the question.
Now, what is it again?
You got to pretend it's the second time whenever I say it the first time.
Yeah, but I'm just say it. I don't remember.
So his sister, his brothers, and some of the cousins all saw this when they were kids. The 7 foot entity, no feet, hovering 6 inches above the floor, wide as a door frame, hooded with red eyes. Remember? That's
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, what
so.
about it?
Well, now he's currently living with his fiance's parents. Okay? Now
Yeah,
his fiance's sister is also seeing the same being at night in a different
uh,
house.
that sucks.
So she said, yeah, she was sleeping on the couch in the living room. She woke up, saw the dog staring at something, and then 3 feet away was this exact figure. So this guy described the figure to ask if this is what she saw. She said she saw exactly that.
I like her method of not describing what you saw, not leading a question, and then actually ask them to describe what it is.
No, I don't know if she asked him to describe. He offered. He just said, was because she probably said, I saw this crazy thing.
Uh,
He probably said, oh, did it look like this? And then she said she immediately got the chills and said that was exactly what she saw.
uh,
So my question before was, is this some kind of weird demon entity that's following this guy and his family? Because why are all these different people? Because it's not even his fiance; it's his fiance's sister who saw this. Unless he's lying about everything.
Yeah.
No thoughts?
I don't know. The shadow person's following around.
Okay. Another time, she was in bed sleeping next to her boyfriend and woke up in the middle of the night to the same figure again, standing over her, staring. And again, she stared back and couldn't scream for the life of her. She said it felt so real, but she doesn't know if it was her dream since she couldn't scream. Is it possible all of these people were just dreaming and hallucinating, but why are they dreaming and hallucinating the same being?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Well, this account is not over. A year ago, my mom was at her house upstate doing laundry in the daytime when she saw this figure. The way she explains it reminds me of Smeagol leaning out of the downstairs bedroom and quickly turning its head to the left and stared at her for about 30 seconds. Then, after that, it slowly leaned back into the room and vanished. The best part of it was I was on the phone with her when it happened. She explained what she saw as she saw it. That's weird.
She explained it as she saw it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's weird. I think this might be our first live phone encounter where someone was on the phone and describing what they were seeing as they saw it. That's crazy, man. Okay, so this is how this account finishes. The best experience I've ever felt, seen, smelled, heard was at the Yellow House. That's what we called it. One day at work, about 3 years ago, our coworker Lori was like, "Hey, I just rented this house out and need some help moving some stuff in. I'm also looking for someone to go halves on it with if you know anyone." My fiance and I looked at each other and said, "Yeah, we're actually looking for a house to rent. We'll help you move in too. Mind if we stay the night tonight to see if we like it?" So she said yes. And after work, we packed up some things and headed over. It was my fiance, her friend, and me. We got to this house, which was set back from the road a little bit, a 2-story yellow house in between a Spanish deli and a dance club. Yeah, just where I want to live. Right then, I was like, I don't know, babe. With all this active stuff around us, let's just try it for tonight, though. She agreed, and we went and started loading the stuff inside. After we were done, we sat around and we were talking for a bit when my dog, Pitbull, and Lori's dog, also a pit bull, one female, one male, following each other in a perfect circle in a dining room, both sniffing the floor. We all looked at each other like, "That's odd." And I said in a sarcastic tone, "Maybe it's a pentagram or a seance ring on the floor," being funny. And my fiance was like, "Shut up, don't say that." And I said, "Okay, fine." Are you still following, Maxwell?
No,
Why not?
I lost track.
So we kept talking for a little longer. After a few hours, it was getting late, 1 a.m., and we all had to work the next day. So my fiance and her friend started heading up the stairs, and I was getting my dog from Lori's room to go upstairs when I heard a scream. I ran to the stairs, and my fiance and her friend were scared to hell. I was like, "What happened? You guys okay?" I looked up to them, and my fiance said the lights went on and off by themselves. The light switch was actually moving up and down, and I saw it happen. I thought that was kind of cool, but said, "Damn, that's scary." So I went.
Wait, so she saw the light, physical light switch go up and down?
Yep.
Damn, that's
Yeah,
fucking
that's weird. I
crazy.
don't remember an account like that. Usually the lights just go crazy, but nobody talks about watching the light switch. So
That's
this guy, I thought that was kind of cool, but said, "Damn, that's scary." So I went down and got my dog. She went upstairs, and Lori asked me to shut and lock her door, which is right at the bottom of the stairs across the hall. So I shut and locked her door, and shut and locked the door behind me that led up to the stairs, and walked to the room we stayed in, all three of us, and my dog on an air mattress. Kaylee wanted to go out on the roof to smoke. That's his fiance's friend. The window led to a flat part of the roof, and before she got on the roof to smoke, Lori called us and said, "Hey, are you guys smoking?" I was like, "No." Kay was about to. "Why?" She said, "Well, there's a really weird smoky smell down here coming out of the wall." So I went down, and Lori had the door open, and sure enough, there was the smell. It was an oil burner smell. I used to work on that kind of stuff, so I went into the basement in the middle of the night by myself and checked the boiler. The boiler was on the other side of the house. It was a partial basement and it was burning perfect with no smell at all. It was impossible the way it was for the smell to get to that side of the house. So I was like, that's odd. So I went back up, told Lori, and she was creeped out. So again, with a sarcastic voice, I said, maybe it's a poltergeist because they bring a smell before they start doing expletive. Yeah, I should have shut my mouth. So she was creeped out, shut and locked her door, and I did the same to the door at the bottom of the stairs. Went up, told the girls what happened. They were creeped out, and we laid down. As we were laying there, about 5 minutes passed. Then we heard footsteps. Little ones running up the stairs, then big ones running up the stairs. Little ones running down the stairs, big ones running down the stairs. I called Lori on the cell and was like, "Are you guys running downstairs?" She said, "No, I haven't moved from my bed. My dog is next to me too. I thought it was you guys running." And I was like, "No, we're all in bed." So a few minutes passed and they kept running, and my fiance and her friend were petrified. So I opened the door, ran down the stairs, yelling, "Get out!" As I ran, the door at the bottom of the stairs and Lori's door both flew open at the exact same time. I saw Lori in bed with the covers over her head, scared, and I was like, "This is crazy. We gotta work tomorrow. LOL." Lori was like, "This is weird, man." So we talked for a couple minutes, went back upstairs, locked the doors, and laid down. Everything was quiet as we lay there on the bed, the street lights glare coming through the windows, and not a peep in the house. So about 10 minutes passed, had my eyes closed, but I felt a presence. So I opened my eyes, and this black shadow raised up slowly and took all the light out of the room. That's kind of weird. So this black
So
shadow,
so complete darkness.
so the black shadow raises up and takes the light as if it sucks
Yeah,
light like a vacuum. That's new.
or covered the light source and completely blacked it, or blackened the whole room. I don't know.
I said quietly as I stared, "Are you guys seeing this?" They said yes. Holy expletive. And it raised and made it pitch black in the room. So I sat up and it vanished. The girls said, "That is so expletive. I want to go home." I was like, "We'll be fine. Just try to sleep." So we all laid back down, and as soon as we did, the shadow came back and rose again, taking all the light from the room. Happened again, and then it stopped. So I finally fell almost fully asleep when I heard Kaylee say, "OMG, what are you doing?" I opened my eyes, and my hand was straight up in the air. And as soon as I opened my eyes, it dropped my hand and it hit my dog. I didn't even feel it pick up my arm. What the heck? So this shadow entity possessed his hand like an Evil Dead?
It's weird. So wait, she had her eyes closed and then she opened her eyes and her arms was up and then it slammed to her dog
The
when she
narrator of
opened
this
it.
whole the narrator of this whole account is a man,
Uh,
if you were paying attention.
okay, well I wasn't, but like so he opened she opened her eyes,
He
well his
opened his
eyes.
eyes
He opened his eyes and then dropped his hand to the dog
and it hit the
and
dog. And but this guy's saying I didn't even feel it pick up my arm, so he had no
yeah,
feeling in his arm as it was becoming
yeah.
possessed.
So it's like it's weird.
Indeed, it
But
is.
but he closed his eyes though, right?
Well, he opened his eyes and his hand was straight up in the air as soon as he opened his eyes.
So his eyes was closed.
Beforehand. Then when he opened it,
Yeah,
it was already up and his hand was dropping. As the
yeah.
night went on, nothing happened until my fiance moved a little dinosaur cut out from the wall and hung it on the door at the bottom of the stairs. She mentioned that to me, so I went down and got it and put it back where it was in the first place, and nothing happened after that. A few days passed, and we looked up the house online and couldn't even find it on Google Maps. My fiance said her old friend from school used to live there with her mom, and she told me she was pretty sure the mother killed the daughter and then killed herself in that house.
That's creepy as hell.
I was like, "Well, that explains a lot." Wait, why would the fiance even agree to go sleep in that house then? Unless she found out about it later. But a few weeks later, after Lori was moved out, the day after the event, she never went back. The house had new residents, and I saw the top half of the house where we slept in, they had a fire. The windows
It
were burnt, and the yellow paint outside was black from the fire. Lori also said after that that the owners of the house that rented out told her no one ever lasts more than 2 weeks in the house, and they don't know why. She tried calling them to get her rent back, but they never answered and their phone wasn't active anymore. But yeah, I could go on and on about all the stuff that has happened to us. Not sure if our family is cursed or what, but I know they're always with us at night. I'm not scared of them, and neither is my family, but it's very odd. Sorry for the long post. I tried to make it book like so you can imagine it better. So many odd things happen to my family. A medium I talked to said we should get some spiritual help from the things. I told her, LOL, I think it's fun. This guy seems a little deranged, huh? He
Yeah.
thinks it's funny that his sister's probably possessed because he's talking about, haha, she's probably possessed. And then he's adding LOL to all these accounts. But it seems like he's used to the shadow entity's creature. If this happens your whole life, I guess it would be kind of like business as usual, right? You wouldn't find it that weird if it happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
That was still kind of bizarre, though. Very,
Yeah.
very bizarre.
This is a little off topic, but are real estate agents obligated to tell the history of the house, like murder and stuff like that? I
If
don't know.
you're buying the house, I'm not 100% sure if you're renting, though. That's interesting, too. I know if you're buying it, they are. I'm
Hmm.
not 100% sure what the renting regulations are. Maybe there are different regulations for short-term versus long-term rentals. I don't know. Also, I'm not 100% sure that's a national thing, right? Wouldn't that be a state by state kind of thing?
Yeah.
It seems like that would be a state thing. So,
Hmm.
I'm guessing. So, but yeah.
I hear that a lot. Uh, that experience where like they go to a house and they just like sense weird things and they just leave the house like no matter what. Like
Yeah.
they'll let go of a lease. Like there's 11 months left, and they'll just leave, and um and it's worth it for them. And they always try to like hear from neighbors what happens. Like no one lasts like for like for like a month. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
it's
crazy.
pretty creepy. I mean, the other thing that doesn't make any sense, if the fiance knew about all that, why would she stay there? Unless she found out later, I don't know. Or she knew about it but she didn't. I don't know. It's kind of
Yeah. It's
it's
kind of
kinda,
like poltergeist. They can't. They kind of they're kind of stuck. So they're trying to find a place to live and but they can't. So like they kind of stay for a little bit more.
All right, let's get even more creepy. So here's a slender-limbed shadow creature from Texas. So this incident occurred August 2016 in Palacios, Texas, a tiny seaside town located on the Gulf Coast, about 90 minutes south of Houston. Jay, a 56-year-old man, was sitting in a chair in front of his home at about 5:30 a.m., having a cigarette and a cup of coffee. Jay is a level-headed person, doesn't spook easily, and doesn't buy into any of the paranormal hype that's so popular today. He feels there's an explanation for everything, or at least he did. After a few minutes, he began to feel uneasy, but couldn't figure out why. There was nothing about the morning to feel uneasy about. It finally dawned on him that he felt like he was being watched. He glanced around, but there was nobody there, and then he saw it. Hanging on the light pole across the street, which was what could only be described as a thing. The thing was black, and its body was about the size of a large dog. It was the arms and legs, if they were arms and legs, that looked as though they belonged to an entirely different creature. They were long and skinny, very long and skinny. So long were the legs that it was standing on the ground, the creature would have been close to 6 feet tall. The arms were as long and skinny as the legs were. It was unlike anything that Jay had ever seen in his life. It turned to look at Jay, or at least he felt it turned to look at him, but there was no face to speak of. But even with the absence of a face, Jay said you could just feel the thing make eye contact with you. After Jay and the creature looked at each other, Jay said that the thing began to behave as though it had messed up by allowing itself to be seen, like Jay had seen something that he wasn't meant to see. At that point, the thing went up the pole using a hand over hand motion with its feet flat against the pole. Its limbs weren't wrapped around the pole, it simply walked up the side. When it got up to about 3/4 of the way up the pole, it simply wasn't there anymore, like it had stepped off into some kind of portal. When it got to be full daylight, Jay and his wife took a walk across the street to see if there was any type of claw marks on the pole from the creature climbing. But to their shock, the pole was made of smooth aluminum. Jay and his wife kept looking for it, but almost a year later, nothing has been seen. So that's pretty weird. So we're going this 6 foot tall shadow creature with super long arms and legs of roughly equal length.
Yeah, I was thinking giraffe, but I guess not. Some kind of alien shadow person.
It was just hanging on a light pole across the street. Can you imagine? You just look out the street, it's hanging by a light pole.
Wait, how many witnesses was this?
Just
Just
one.
one?
Yep.
Hmm.
5:30 a.m.
I find it more engaging when there's like 3 or 4 people, like
Yeah, it's more
because
credible.
it feels so much more real. Like even just listening to, even if they just said it.
Well, I think you can't write it off as quick because if they're all having the same exact hallucination, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, because it's like now if it is true, now it's like, well, it's not a hallucination, it's not a drug, unless they
Yeah.
were all drugged up. But even
Yeah.
if they were all drugged up, they can't see the same thing at the same time.
Yeah. Here's another one from Texas. Shadow creature lurks in Abilene, Texas. This story is in relation to the slender-limbed shadow creature. That's the account we just went over. I have been seeing this creature for about 7 months now. I have seen it about 10 times over this period. When I see it, it is only there for a split second. I will make eye contact with the creature, and when I blink, it will vanish. It's always been darkish when I see it, but usually I am the only one who sees it. I honestly began to think I was going crazy until one night, two pals of mine were riding in a golf cart on the outside of a church camp we work at. Bill was driving, I was in the middle, and James was on the passenger side. As we cruised along, we drove by an old pathway, and I requested that we turn and went down it. My friend Bill turned around and drove down the pathway. It was maybe 8:15, so it was kind of dark around Abilene, Texas. And by the way, this is almost on the entire other side of Texas from
So that was just random. They just told them to take that path, or they
yeah,
were
yeah, I
exploring
guess.
stuff.
I guess, or just cruising, whatever. It was maybe 8:15, so it was kind of dark around Abilene, Texas. Only one light on the cart, so I had my phone in my hand to compensate for the missing light. The shape of the road was kind of like a P. As we went along the long side of the P, to our left is where I saw it. Never seen it this close before. It was the size of a large man and it was as black as night. I said, "What the heck is that?" I had the light from my phone directly on it. Bill immediately turns the cart around and drives off as fast as he can. James is in the cart as well on the far side where we saw the creature. He noticed that I was as pale as a piece of paper. He asked what we saw, and Bill explained it exactly the same as what I saw. James never saw it. So that's an interesting scenario. Two of the three people saw it.
Yeah, it's crazy. So James was like looking the other way or looking at them, but so he just witnessed them
Yeah.
turn white.
I
That's
became
crazy.
curious, so I looked it up. What I typed was man with dog's body demon, and the slender limbed creature showed up. It was almost exactly like what we seen. Although nobody believes us, we know what we saw and will never forget it. Hmm. So yeah, seems like there are these shadow creatures, not just shadow humanoids, which we've gone over the possibility. If there are shadow humanoids, why wouldn't there be shadow creatures from other dimensions if they are from other dimensions?
Hmm. It's that it seems like there's more credibility with alien-like forms than humans, because like humans, you can kind of like mistake it for something, or mistake it for some, or like you're more hallucinating. But if you're hallucinating with another person, the same alien-like creature, and you describe it the same way, it's kind of like it's more unusual and more uh credible, at least from my perspective. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the other things we've discussed on what these shadow creatures or entities could be, if they simply exist all around us and only certain humans have the ability to see on the specific light spectrum. Similarly to, some kind of infrared or some other wavelength that most humans can't see, but for whatever reason, certain humans can. So it's almost like certain colorblind people. I mean, it's almost a luck of the draw genetic lottery type thing. And we discussed that pretty extensively in the previous podcast, but I keep coming back to something like that. Because what if there was a scenario where all three people were looking at the creature, but only certain people saw it? And once again, I keep bringing this up. the whole digital interference. What if people simply tried to use analog film to film all of these things? Because if there's some kind of an issue with electromagnetic frequency where it can't be captured on digital and it can only be captured on film.
But when are you gonna bring up people who had GoPro cameras on their heads seeing shadow people?
Wait, why would I bring that up?
I don't know, because we keep hearing about things that's never been recorded except for like, human experience. I don't know. I just thought it would be cool. It would be a cool account.
GoPros, what are you talking about?
I don't know, GoPros on their forehead while they see shadow people.
What makes you think there are accounts like that?
Guessing because you're doing all this research, maybe you'll come across one.
I mean, it's kind of like with ghost hunters. They have their equipment to try to kind of they have their meters or
I actually mentioned it on the first podcast I think we did. There was this video that claimed that it was like the shadow person. This guy had a GoPro camera, but it appeared not as shadow, but like the Predator movie. That cloak thing.
like
Um,
heat vision.
yeah. Well, the cloak thing, like kind of you'll see like a shimmer.
Yeah. So like a translucent outline.
Yeah, translucent, that kind of thing. But you see the background still. But it could have been fake, but I don't know. It was done really well. Um, Actually, now that I think about it, I remember saying that it must have been. It was really difficult because the camera moved around a lot to go frame by frame. You really have to be a dedicated what do you call it? What do we call those people? Dedicated
Ghost hunter.
not scammer, but hoaxer. A dedicated hoaxer to go frame by frame for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed another edition of the Mindshock podcast. We will be back for even more encounters with shadow people in the next episode in the series. If you like the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. If you like the video, hit the like button. Feel free to share it across social media platforms. Questions, comments, theories, or your own personal accounts, drop them in the comments section. Make sure you like our Facebook page. You can also check us out Twitter, Reddit, Patreon. This is Bruce McGuire signing off.
And Maxwell Powers.